If one man decides who lives, how is that justice?
Away. Just away. Clark Kent, Daily Planet.
What's your position on the Bat Vigilante in Gotham?
One man decides who lives. How is that justice?
There's a new kind of mean in him. He is angry. And he's hunting.
Mark, man, you know what to do to people with dishonor?
Don't listen to that nonsense. Only people scared of him. People who got reason to be.
Believe me, I'll do it!
Civil liberties are being trampled on in your city. Good people living in fear. Don't believe everything you hear, son. I've seen it, Mr. Wayne. He thinks he's above the law.
So recently I've seen a lot of talk going around on Twitter about how the usual suspects are saying that Batman wouldn't hurt a fly and that he's just nice to people and my Batman wouldn't do that. Okay, well, Batman is arguably the most violent of all superheroes just by his nature. I mean, his main superpower is putting belt to ass. So Batman brutalizes criminals. I don't care, what PG rated stories there are out there. Batman brutalizes criminals, and the more that you bring him into a realistic setting, the more brutal he would become. The most notable change in cinema following 9/11 was that Hollywood no longer needed the military for dramatic material. Now unable to placate the realities of war in a believable fashion, the military depended more on Hollywood than Hollywood did on them. National security now needed cinema to continue to set up a fictional barrier between the public and its fears. Valentin tells us that the 11 September attacks broke down this barrier by forcing the test of reality onto the imaginary world. Valentin also tells us that proper portrayals of September 11th are exceptionally rare in cinema. BVS brilliantly brings the imaginary world into reality by having the Son of Sun and Knight of Night face their own fears outside of the fictional barrier of innocent power and unsullied hands. And I don't mean realistic. You always, again, have your usual suspects say, oh, man dresses up in a bat costume. Realistic? What are you talking about? It's realistic to the standards of the world that you're in. Realistic in terms of the physics that the established world operates on. For example, let's take the insane amount of suspension of disbelief that you have to play the Arkham games. Are you kidding me? There is one finishing move where Batman is standing on the guy's neck and then drops his knee, his opposite knee, into his head while he's laying on concrete. And then, of course, you turn on your little detective mode and it says unconscious. Where we can all feel safe now, knowing that that knee to the head cushioned by concrete didn't kill him. We can all sleep a little bit easier. We can sleep with our hands clean at night. But regardless of Batman's origin, where he doesn't want to perpetuate the same gun violence and he doesn't want, anybody to suffer what he did as a child by witnessing his parents' death, that's all understandable. But the true, genuine reason that Batman does not kill criminals is because that he believes that they can be redeemed. That is what's stopping Batman's belief that Gotham can be a better place and that criminals can be redeemed. Is what stops him from killing them completely. You may have to be redeemed after having both your legs broken, but that's just reality. Or that's just this reality, the reality that he operates in. And so the latest pontification by fans that want to pacify every part of DC have been shrilling at the fact that Batman branded criminals in Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition. And there are a lot of those who think that this is just done for no reason and he's just doing it to torture criminals to an extra degree. But there is reason behind it. Just like everything in the film, there is reason behind it. Batman's brand of justice is literally heating up. It's getting to a boiling point. But I think what we need to take into account first, before we get into the actual plot of the film, is why he's branding criminals. Why branding specifically? Well, why do you brand something? Why do you brand anything at all? I mean, a logo is a representation of a brand. That is exactly where that word comes from, because it is a symbol that means it belongs to you, My brand is signified by that logo. That's my brand. If I were to bring anything into ownership under that brand, I would likely just spray Property of Modern Saviors on it, but I would put some sort of logo or some sort of signifier that that thing is under my ownership. And so you see in the best modern Western myth, Yellowstone, another Kevin Costner classic, that they not only brand their cattle, but they brand their people. And that's not to say ownership in the sense of making slaves out of them. It's ownership in terms of where you belong. The ranchers and the cowboys, granted it's been years since I watched the show, but the ranchers and the cowboys that had the brand, they belong to Yellowstone forever. That's not to say that they are their property, but they belong to that name, they belong to that brand forever, because there's no removing it. Permanent. It's hot metal. So we take this into the context of Batman and BVS. He's branding criminals like they are cattle to him. And I think this is a brilliant move on the film's part. He is branding criminals as if they are cattle that belong to the Batman. But why would Batman make such a permanent mark on a criminal such as a brand? Why would Batman bring them under his belonging? Because his use of the brand signifies that Batman at this point no longer believes in redemption. He does not believe that these criminals can be redeemed, because he spent 20 years in Gotham. He spent that entire time knowing that promises mean nothing. He doesn't think there's any good guys left, not even himself. That's why he's gone to the brand, because he no longer believes that criminals can be redeemed, and he no longer believes that he can be redeemed. So Batman breaks out the brand for every criminal he apprehends and imprisons, because following that, they can no longer return to their criminal lifestyle. The criminal underworld of Gotham would immediately recognize that and know that it makes them a target for the Batman. If a cow gets loose on somebody else's farm, how do they identify it? They identify it by its branding. And so if these criminals are branded, they can no longer return to criminal life. They can no longer leave where Batman has herded them. There is no sense in Batman leaving room for redemption when he has come to believe that he does not deserve it himself. However, Batman's lack of foresight, Batman's lack of attention to detail, Batman's dwindling perspicacity over Gotham allows for Lex Luthor to fly under his radar and transport the branded criminals in Gotham to Metropolis.
Prisoner transfer. You can't put me in jail, man. They're gonna kill me. Hey, you can't bring me to jail.
You should be thanking the taxpayers in Metropolis for taking in your branded ass.
You should thank the taxpayers of Metropolis for taking in your branded ass. That is one of the best lines in the film. Not only does it signify that the criminal has been moved to Metropolis, where we see the KGB's guy, his name escapes me right now, but talking to the big dude, the prisoner, who then goes and shivs him. It shows that the criminal is moved to Metropolis for that to happen. But it also displays what I'm talking about how it's a risk for the people of Metropolis to take in one of Batman's cattle, because then they risk inflicting the terror of the Batman onto the people of Metropolis. However, Lex is successful in having these prisoners killed, but he does it in Metropolis, under Superman's eye, whereas this is outside of Batman's normal turf, so it goes under the radar to him. Batman does not know that these criminals are being killed in a Metropolis prison. He thinks he is branding them to stop them from returning to criminal life. And so that line signifies that the authority figures in Metropolis are not too keen on inflicting the wrath of the Batman on their own citizens. But why would that be? Why would they feel that way? Why would they think this way in the past 18 months? Well, it's because since then, that marks the time that Batman started using the brand. We see it in his first outing on the Halloween night scene, where the night before, Lex's party does Batman find the human trafficker in Branson, which is why the cops are so horrified upon this revelation. But anyway, the authority figures in Metropolis do not want to bring the wrath of the Batman upon their own citizens. They're just across the bay. They know what happens to the citizens of Gotham, especially in the last 18 months. In that time, Batman has completely encroached upon the rights and the freedoms of citizens in order to gain more power, which I spoke of here. Even the Gotham residents can sense the Batman's sharpening tunnel vision as he cracks down harder on criminals in search of intel. Valentin described that the American response to 9/11 is a unilateralist policy, which often facilitates the exploitation of the most deprived social groups. The Gotham residents can sense a new kind of fear in criminals since the Black Zero event, as a result of Batman becoming more unilateralist and straying away from his own imposed restrictions. He needs to gain more power in order to take on the Superman. Batman believes he can no longer be redeemed because he believes that all of his work has been for nothing. So he has submitted so much of himself and so much of his life to the Batman identity that upon Superman's emergence, does it make it all irrelevant. So there is no reason not to surrender the rest of himself to the Batman identity. Bruce Wayne is gone at this point. So the brand is enacted because it signifies that loss of the belief in redemption. But the movie does not end there. From here, we have the magnificent and beautiful Martha moment, where the two most powerful men in the world come together out of the love for their own mother. Superman is intentionally triggering Batman's PTSD because he knows about the Batman. He knows everything he's been up to. He knows that the Batman needs to return. He knows that the Batman is due for a rebirth. And so once he is returned to the origination of his being, he can then start back on the hero path. He can start to believe he is worthy of redemption. However, if he crosses that line, there's no coming back. Unless after realizing that he has crossed this line just before committing his first and only murder, does he realize that the path to redemption is possible. The path to redemption is shown to him through Superman's immediate forgiveness of him following the attack, following the fight. Superman immediately forgives him, and then Batman realizes that his mother Martha is in trouble. This is why the warehouse scene is so brilliant. Not only is it the best Batman action scene ever produced by a country mile, but it's Batman's opportunity to vicariously save his own mother as Batman. He can be the hero he wanted as a child in that moment. So this completes the cycle of the Batman being reborn. But we're still not finished because Doomsday has arrived. And since Doomsday has arrived, this will be the last ever opportunity to be a hero unless the battle is won. Batman even faces Doomsday down himself because he knows that this is the last opportunity to be a hero and to redeem himself for what he's done, to alleviate the world of the threat of Doomsday. However, something unexpected happens, something unexpected to him. Superman makes the most heroic and noble sacrifice by a hero in modern cinema. It so directly reflects, imitates, and reenacts the crucifixion of Christ that the same meaning can be taken from it. Batman now has a place to put all of his mortal sins that he committed and start anew down the hero path that Superman had forged for him, which we see in Bruce Wayne's final shot. Now that the belief of redemption has been restored in the Batman's mind, does he pay Lex Luthor a visit? He pays a visit to the man who is least worthy of a chance at redemption because he is the one who unleashed Doomsday upon the world. He is the one who killed the Savior. He is the least worthy of redemption. But Batman, having now been initiated to the fundamental belief of the House of El, does he believe that there is potential for good in even Lex Luthor? And that's why we see him take the brand and punch the wall next to him. He is leaving room for a chance at redemption. He is leaving room for the potential to be a force for good. When you believe there is no chance at redemption, then you believe that all your mistakes are permanent. You believe that all your sins are damning, and you believe that no wrongdoing can be remedied. So that is why Batman chose to use this hot metal to leave a permanent mark on these criminals. Because a piece of metal in its most primal state does not have meaning. But a piece of metal used to make something permanent, to make something as icons of your heroes, a permanent part of your life, then a positive meaning will have to be given to metal. So check out my friends over at Titan Forge. They can help you infuse metal with a positive meaning and a positive reminder to stay on the hero path. Use my code HERO for 5% off of your first metal with meaning. So remember, a brand shows who you belong to. So be mindful of what brands you burn. Thank you and good night.